As a journalist, let's connect the dots, and I think you'll find this very interesting. As you know, this is King Charles, and that is his old late friend, Jimmy Savile. They were quite close. It even says it down here, look, the close relationship between Prince Charles, because he was prince at the time, he's now king, and the disgraced BBC presenter Jimmy Savile. Yeah, so they were quite close. What you won't know is this man was quite close to somebody else we know. Yeah, guess who that is? I bet you can't tell, can you? Maybe that will help? No? Oh, okay, well, I'll have to let you know. That's Sir Keir Starmer. See, when you're in the boys' club, they keep you in the boys' club and they give you special privileges and help you in your future with maybe, say, career moves that might be beneficial to them later. So, yeah, you get the Sir, and then you get the great job of looking after everybody. Yeah, and this guy looked after children's cases to the point where they even made a panorama episode where he was on it, and they asked him, how many families do you think you've destroyed by the mistakes you made? And he says, oh, that's really an impossible question to ask me. Yeah? Now, when you do these kind of favours and you look out for your buddies, yeah, you know what I mean, they might look out for you, and when Mum passes, they, advise you to maybe go and get the best job in the country. Yeah? And when you do, on your way there to get there, you say quite a bit of misinformation, and then you try and come up with laws about misinformation right after you did the misinformation. What do I mean by that? Well, yeah, Labour says they were going to help abolish tuition fees, and that's not happening now. They also said that they would freeze council tax for 1 year. That's up by 100 quid. They also said they would help out with the energy prices. Yep, that's up by 140 quid. And you know about this one, the pensioners. Well, they all freeze. So all in all, Mr. Misinformation is coming up with laws so you can't talk about his misinformation.
Shall I tell you of a very good fix that I did with a young lady at Buckingham Palace? I was at a reception at Buckingham Palace. That's the place where the Queen lives and Prince.
I know, they keep the Queen there, yes.
And it's not an easy gaff to penetrate. Very, very...
What's that? Not an easy...
It's not an easy place to get into.
Aha,
that's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
So I was at this reception, and there was a very nice lady and gentleman said to me, my daughter would be so pleased to know that I've met you and this, that and the other. And I said, oh yes. Where is she? And they said, she's in the back of the car. I said, what, in the boot? And they said, no, we've sneaked her in the back of the car so she can say she's been in the palace courtyard. I said, and you've got her stuck out there? I said, oh, leave it to me. And they went, no, please don't. And they grabbed me. I said, no. So I went to see a minder and said, they've got this situation and I'm bringing a friend in. So he said, listen, who's going to object to you? So I said, all right. Now, the palace staff are the most excellent people, right? On the way out, I explained very briefly what I was doing. Leave it to us. So I went out into the car park, which is a courtyard inside the palace, and I shouted the young lady's name. Next minute, she's holding my arm, and next minute we're marching up the steps right into the palace. Well, the staff had done it right. The 2 footmen opened the 2 great doors, and inside there were all the majors and the colonels and the household staff. It's a most elegant situation and tremendously rewarding, right? And of course, when she sees this spectacle of the carpet and the people all standing there, and they all give a little graceful dip as she walked by, and she was now hanging onto me like a lifebelt, right? And we walked up the steps and into the room where the reception was, in a room called the ballroom, and fantastic look. Prince Philip, who was a marvellous geezer, happened to be just standing inside the door, parroting to somebody. So I went...
prearranged signal, no doubt.
Well, no, there's not a lot of people go psst inside the palace. People go in. So he's from the butchers, right, like this. See me, and I do the nod, put a killer in. So he doesn't know where this young lady's appeared from, with a long coat on and bumpy shoes, but he has given the beautiful smile, and she's gone, right? That was a fix-it that I really enjoyed, and I think she might remember it, even if her parents and herself are watching tonight, she might even remember it to this day, and I think a lot longer.
Good.
Big question I get asked is, when did it all start, and why? Ladies and gentlemen, it so happens I've spent my life fixing things for people.
As a child, you just thought, this guy can make things happen.
He knew everybody.
Well, I thank you for everything you do for every good cause.
How on earth do you raise £10 million in 3 years?
With Jim, you accepted things as normal, but it was abnormal.
That is supposed to be me. What did I ever do to you that you would draw that picture of me?
He's very intuitive.
You do a terrific job, Jimmy.
No, that's all front. That's all lies.
He was making the screen in front of him. It's like you couldn't see through it.
He knew fame and power gave him every door.
I am a voluntary helper. Sometimes, when nobody's looking, I help the lasses.
It turns out, everywhere he'd been, there'd been abuse.
It's not a seat that can catch me out, ladies and gentlemen. But they can't really catch me out. I've got eyes all over the head, you see.
Picture that emerged, people who were in a state of paralysis.
Jimmy Savile has been knighted by the Queen.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks very much, Jim.
The allegations are shocking the entire country.
The nation created Jimmy Savile.
I'm not in your world. I'm not constrained by anything. Let me tell you, you really are missing something. In fact, you're missing everything.
In 1986, Charles and Jimmy grew close. The Times claims that the two exchanged messages for 20 years, from 1986 to 2006. With the release of a new video describing Jimmy Savile's relationship with the royal family, it has become clear how closely related King Charles and his family were to the man who was exposed as a paedophile in 2011. The expose was from a Netflix documentary titled Jimmy Savile, A British Horror Story, which includes multiple memos and personal letters that demonstrate his closeness to the royal firm. Keep watching as we unveil the relationship between King Charles and Jimmy Savile. Hundreds of people, mostly female and some as elderly as 75, were allegedly sexually molested by Jimmy Savile, a cultural figure in the UK who passed away in 2011. Most of those victims were believed to have been female and minors. He was well known in the UK for his quirky personality and was well liked for his philanthropic efforts, which connected him to British royalty and other powerful people. In a Mark Williams Thomas produced ITV documentary that aired on October 3, 2012, numerous women claimed that Savile had sexually assaulted them while they were minors. By October 11th, complaints against Savile had been brought to the attention of 13 police departments, and as a result, inquiries into Savile's business dealings with the BBC and the National Health Service were launched. It included 214 claimed activities by Savile that, however unsubstantiated, have been properly documented as crimes. Some of these alleged acts allegedly involved children as young as 8. The report states that among the crimes that have been reported, there are 126 indecent acts and 34 rape or penetration offences. The study claims that in addition to BBC property, alleged violations also took place at 13 hospitals. Savile frequently interacted with his victims as a result of his imaginative work for the BBC and his altruistic efforts for the NHS. Working with children and young people, including visiting hospitals and schools, was an important aspect of his career and public life. Although the accusations were made while he was still alive, they were ignored or covered up because, as we all know, predators are supported and protected by other influential people and organisations, including the Royal Institution, as Jimmy Savile's connections to individuals at the top echelons of British society, including Prince Charles, the future monarch of England, during his lifetime, made him invulnerable. Savile, who received a knighthood from the Queen, had connections to several influential figures, including Margaret Thatcher, as a result of his well-known charitable work and fruitful broadcasting career. Savile asserted he was in palaces regularly in a memo written to the royals in 1989 and headlined Guidelines for Members of the Royal Family and Their Staff. Savile claimed on a page named Personal Observations that because of his access to the royal family homes, he was well placed to observe and remark on their public image. Savile wrote, "Since I frequently visit Buckingham Palace and St James's Palace, one thing is starting to become very obvious. There is currently a significant push against some members of the royal family and their staff. If you want to be part of our family, quickly subscribe to our channel." Charles sought to connect with and be liked by the young people who would be his future subjects. He might have thought that getting it would be easier if he was associated with Savile. As the future King Charles increasingly turned to his friend Jimmy for assistance on how to deal with the outside world that he and his family were shielded from, Savile, in effect, became a royal advisor. A note received by the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh reportedly contained some of the informal media relations manuals the prolific sex offender had written for himself. When Savile first appeared at Buckingham Palace in 1972 with his mother Agnes to get his OBE from the Queen Mother for services to charity, it is thought he was probably looking for a means to enter the royal family. It wasn't hard to accomplish. Savile's entrance into the royal circle was facilitated by an unexpected character reference from Charles's favourite uncle, Lord Louis Mountbatten, who had known Savile since the 1960s. The Prince and Savile became closer because of their shared ties to the Buckinghamshire Hospital, Stoke Mandeville. Charles requested Savile for assistance on April 16, 1990, with a speech he was scheduled to give at London's Guildhall because he was so good at understanding what Charles requested Savile for assistance on April 16, 1990, with a speech he was scheduled to give at London's Guildhall because he was so good at understanding what makes people operate, and Savile was sceptical and practical. Please review this text and let me know how you believe we may best appeal to different people, as Charles kindly requested in his letter. He sent Savile another email on July 4th to express his gratitude for helping him get ready for his Guildhall speech. "It was incredibly thoughtful of you to take the time to compile those wonderful remarks and give me a lot to think about," he wrote. "What matters is if you believe the outcome to be worthwhile in any manner. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude, Charles." King Charles had rekindled his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles during the years when the Prince and Princess of Wales were growing apart and Diana had started dating James Hewitt, both of whom remained close to Savile. Years after being hired for marriage counselling, royal press advisor Dickie Arbiter told the Sunday Times that Savile had been hired by an aide to improve the state of the union, but it had failed. A suggestion initially made in the so-called Squidgygate audio is confirmed by the revelation in the Netflix series that Charles wrote to Savile to beg him to counsel Fergie on how to avoid damaging publicity. Just a few days after Jimmy Savile's passing in 2011, the first draft of an inquiry into him that aimed to reveal him as a paedophile was completed. The introduction read that Prince Charles led the tribute to a national treasure when Jimmy Savile passed away in October. Charles was essential to Savile's reputation. It was not by accident that Savile had grown to be a beloved friend of the famous and powerful, including the Prince of Wales and Margaret Thatcher, who reportedly pushed for a knighthood for him and invited him to spend Christmas at Chequers. Over time, he had purposefully integrated himself into those powerful networks and used his influence to bring about his security. What neighbourhood police officer would believe a 14-year-old girl who alleged she was being sexually assaulted by a friend of the royals and the Prime Minister? He was nearly a saint, with as much recognised and praised charitable efforts and even a papal knighthood to go with his British one. Despite the fact so many British institutions decided to ignore Savile's crimes, charities, medical facilities, government agencies and media outlets are a few among them. BBC executives were aware that the claims that Savile was bringing minors back to his flat for the night were true as early as 1973. They ultimately chose to believe his denial that he had sex with them. Why? Perhaps as a result of the BBC's then dominant culture, which discouraged challenging talent. Even after his passing, the BBC made the infamous decision to kill the investigative programme for BBC's flagship current affairs programme, Newsnight, which was going to expose the DJ, and instead broadcast a non-stop Christmas tributes to the TV icon. After, viewers of an art exhibition were astonished to find a painting of the recently crowned King Charles wearing a Jim'll Fix It medal. The artist defended his work. The company One Keeps painting shows Charles wearing the medal, referring to the King's former friendship with the infamous paedophile. Visitors to the artist's open house exhibits, who are followers of the arts, expressed their upset over the disrespectful image. The piece's creator defended his work, saying that it is his responsibility to provoke debates. No one is talking about the fact that he, the then Prince Charles, was friends with one of the worst paedophiles in history, claimed Saltdean-based artist Jake Fern, or that Jeffrey Epstein, a known paedophile, was pals with his brother Andrew. Do you think King Charles was aware of his friend's behaviour before he died? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Click here to watch more videos, and